All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the CoinRock Show. On today's episode, we have Hermann Vivier. Am I pronouncing the name correctly, first of all?
Yeah, no, it's good enough.
Good, good. So Herman has a very interesting story. We're going to be going over that. As always, I'll go over the short official bio that we have, and then Herman just tell us more about everything, and then we'll just go with the flow. So this
Sounds good.
is This is the bio. So Herman Vivier is the founder of Bitcoin Ekasi, established 2021. Bitcoin Ekasi is a Bitcoin circular economy project based in Mossel Bay in South Africa. The project is inspired by Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador and utilizes the Surfer Kids, a social development and youth empowerment nonprofit that Herman co-founded in 2010 as a community platform. Herman's involvement with Bitcoin dates back to late 2013, so OG, when he stumbled across an early print copy of Bitcoin magazine. Later in 2015, an international tourism business he co-owns with his wife was separated from his client base due to financial sanctions. Bitcoin became a way to receive payments, bypassing sanctions and saving their business. This experience triggered a deep interest in Bitcoin as a solution to immediate problems related specifically to its use as an uncensorable medium of exchange. Great story. Tell us more.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the end of this bio, basically. What happened in 2015?
Well, it's the question is more what happened in 2014 because that's when Russia annexed Crimea.
Got it.
Um, and so the sanctions that we now see implemented against Russia since 2022 really started all the way back in 2014.
Yep.
Um, just to go a little bit back to put that into context, I met my wife in 2008 in Amsterdam. We were both studying there. She's Russian, I'm South African. We met at the University of Amsterdam. We moved back to South Africa, started a tourism business. She was one of the first people that was marketing South Africa as a destination
Yep.
to the Russian
Nice.
tourism market. South Africa obviously is a very well developed tourist destination. Tourism is, well, at least until COVID, tourism was one of the fastest growing industries in the country. It's taken a little long to recover. It's struggled to recover, but it is still one of the most important industries. And so, but there wasn't really anyone marketing South Africa in Russia, and so
Mm,
she was kind of part of the movement that opened South Africa as a destination to the Russian market. And then, obviously, when the sanctions came in 2014, we ran into problems with receiving payments.
yep.
And I'd been semi-obsessed with Bitcoin for about a year and a half by then.
Yep.
I bought some Bitcoin right at the top in 2013. Watched the price go down by 80%, and kind of forced myself to learn more about it, to make an informed decision as to whether or not to hold on to it,
Yep.
or just get rid of it at a loss. And I fortunately I did not get rid of it at a loss. I held on to it. I didn't have a lot of money then. We were very poor. We were just starting off. Our business was still in its very, very early stages. Making money in tourism is not easy.
Yep.
So it's not like we had a lot of money to put into it. But yeah, I learned about it and suggested it to our clients, who ran into sanctions in 2015. And so we started taking payments in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Um, we obviously had to liquidate most of that because we had a business to run. We needed cash flow. So it was more of a medium of exchange back then. It became a store of value over time. We didn't sell everything, but most of it we had to use to run the business. So it's not like I'm sitting on hundreds of Bitcoins. It's a
Yep.
little bit like the pizza guy story.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so that's that part of it.
Yep. What was how did that conversation take place? So was it about Bitcoin, using Bitcoin as a very concrete medium of exchange at the time?
You mean the conversation between ourselves and our clients?
And the clients, yep.
Well, they had no idea what it was. I mean,
Yeah.
2015 was still quite early.
Yeah.
There were more people that knew about it then, obviously, than when I first got into it in 2013. But it was still very early.
Mm.
Um, hardly anyone knew about it. None of the clients who we suggested it to knew about it. So it involved a lot of education.
Yeah.
So we had to go and educate people. We had to help them find places to buy it in their country of origin. The first payments we received were from Ukrainians,
Yeah.
who at that time were banking in Russia. A lot of Ukrainians tended to trust the Russian banking system more than the Ukrainian banking system, and so we had Ukrainian clients who banked in Russia that were cut off from their finances because of the sanctions. So we had to help them figure out where can you buy this in Ukraine. And but they very quickly found somewhere where they could get hold
Yeah.
of it. And then we had to help educate them on how to send it to us. Um, but I mean, I suppose at that time it was quite difficult, but we've been doing it for so long that it doesn't feel like. I mean, we still have to help people, we still have to help educate people, but it's
Yep.
once you've done it once or twice, it's not that intense. But it is an interesting conversation when you suggest that to someone the first time. You always feel a little bit feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially back in the day. Like today it's so easy, so many different apps
Yeah,
and but 10 years ago it was a different even just a topic. It was just a murky topic in the media even.
it was.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and also the technology back then. I mean, the first Bitcoin I bought in 2013, we didn't have internet at home.
Mm.
We basically survived on giving surf. I was a surf instructor. My wife was helping to run a local tourism business on the side while we were
Yep.
building our own business. But we didn't have internet at home, and so I had to find some public Wi-Fi to download the entire blockchain. My first wallet was a full chain, a full node, the Bitcoin Core
Mm.
full node, and so it was very clunky. The
Fun.
technology was very
Yeah, yeah.
clunky. Figuring out how to use the wallets, I'm kind of grateful for that. Like I came into Bitcoin through the self custody route. I
Yep.
didn't I didn't come into it through the custodial exchange route. So self custody has been my default setting since the very beginning. I didn't have to go the other way. So I'm kind of grateful for that. But the
Yep.
technology today is so much better. It's evolved. It's hard to describe how much it's evolved in that time. It's not even closely comparable. I mean, hardware wallets today are so easy to use.
Yep.
Um, my first hardware wallet was basically an old laptop that I took the Wi-Fi card out of the laptop to make sure it can never connect to the internet, and then use the
Yep.
offline laptop to sign transactions and move it to an online one. So today it's.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, it's that any technology that early is clunky, but that's also when you get the max benefit, max upside if it does survive. What I'm curious, what brought you to what was interesting to you when you saw Bitcoin the very first time? 'Cause you saw it before that, before using it really. What drew you to Bitcoin?
Um, it there's a line in the book of in the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. There's a line where he talks in the beginning of the book. He asks the question, um, because he's describing a scene at one of his early boarding houses
Mm,
where he went to school, and he's talking about how he watched the prefects at the school break the rules. And he asks the question, if the people who are supposed to enforce the rules are themselves breaking the rules, who's going to be the ones watching the people and enforcing the rules on the ones who are supposed to enforce the rules? Who's going to be
yeah.
policing the police, basically? And that question stuck with, and I read that when I was very young. I was in my early teenage years.
Yeah.
And that question stuck with me my whole life.
Mm,
I always wondered about that. I always wondered, well, if authority figures are supposed to enforce the rules themselves, but they themselves are the ones breaking the rules, who there's nobody who can reliably enforce the rules
Yeah.
because it's never going to work. And so when I stumbled across Bitcoin, it struck me as, well, this is a solution to that problem. Because for the first time in my entire life, and I mean, this has been, by that time I was in my early 30s. For the first time in my entire life, I came across something that could answer that question. I've been carrying this question
Mm.
with me since my teenage years, and I could never find an answer to this question. And then suddenly there's this thing. There's like, well, nobody has to worry about enforcing the rules here because the system enforces the rules itself. And
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that does that.
Yeah.
Um, and so it just fascinated me. I obviously did not understand it from the very beginning. Obviously, it's nobody, nobody does.
Yeah.
I'm still learning about it. But I was immediately fascinated by it because it was clear that this thing, could answer that question. And that was just fascinating to me.
Were there any fears that that promise would not be fulfilled? Or were you convinced that this was something that had longevity to you?
I had no idea in the beginning. I mean,
Mm.
I guess, I mean, nobody, I don't think anybody can say that they knew from day one
Yeah.
that this thing is going to become what it is today. Um, you know, I, I I think I discovered more uncertainty the more I learned about it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, for example, when Lightning was first introduced as a concept, and then I tried to set up a Lightning node for the first time, and I figured out how difficult it was to do this. I was like, oh shit, this is going to be a lot more challenging than I thought was going to be. I mean, I'm not super technical.
Yeah.
I like to figure stuff out, but I'm not super technical by any stretch. I mean, I run a node. I've got several nodes. I try and do things myself as far as possible, but I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder.
Yeah.
Um, so I started. I wouldn't say I started getting worried the more I learned about it, but I did with time figure out just how difficult it was going to be to make this thing work in reality. It's not a it's there's no easy solution to this. There's no
Yeah.
I mean, and once one of the fascinating things I started learning about more recently is the prehistory of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All the developments that came in the 70s and the 80s.
And
Um,
cryptography, like the
exactly.
first wave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the more I learned about that, that added to
Mm.
this understanding that there's no easy answer to this. These guys have been trying to build a decentralized digital currency for decades, even
Yeah.
before Bitcoin came along. And so there's no easy solution to this. Nobody is going to solve this problem overnight. Like even Bitcoin's not perfect,
Yeah.
not by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the best we've got so far. And it's not like it's not that life is a series of trade-offs. Like you always have to
Yeah.
make difficult decisions. There's
Yeah.
no silver bullet. There's nothing that's going to solve the problem perfectly and satisfy every single requirement
Yeah.
perfectly. It's just not possible. It's incremental improvements. And so I think that's just a healthy reality check. Don't
Yeah.
expect a perfect solution overnight.
Yeah.
That's not a concern. It's just the reality.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's I think one of the probably the most impactful ways of putting it is that it's the best we've got, right? It's the best that it's not perfect. Some people say it is, but I agree with you. It's not perfect. I mean, it has some inherent flaws too. It's had some issues too, but it is the best shot at doing what it set out to do. I'm
Yeah.
curious, moving on to clearly you've always been interested in the outdoors lifestyle, El Salvador. So what's the connection between El Salvador, Bitcoin Beach, and what you set up basically?
Um, I mean, I guess the easiest way to answer that is to say that, you know, I came across this project in El Salvador.
Have you been, by the
Bitcoin.
way?
Yeah,
Nice.
I've been twice.
Yep.
I was there with my family. I took my wife and two kids there for 6 weeks
Oh, very nice.
in November and December. So we spent 6 weeks in the country. We traveled all over El Salvador.
Yep.
Um, but in 2019, I heard this podcast interview, and the person, it was the What Bitcoin Did podcast with Peter McCormack. He
Yep.
interviewed Michael Peterson from Bitcoin Beach, and even 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 Peter McCormack on the show was kind of skeptical. This idea that you could make Bitcoin money, everyday
Yep.
money, and because this was 2019, like
Yep.
Lightning, that was super early for Lightning. I think there was one or two Lightning wallets that you could download off the App Store, but
Yep.
and
Really.
they didn't work very well. So but I kind of listened to this, and all of a sudden this little light bulb just went off because I had gone through a kind of a similar development. Like we had an existing youth program
Mm-hmm.
similar
Mm-hmm.
to what they had in El Salvador. And then I had been very obsessed with Bitcoin for a long time, but the two didn't really overlap with each other.
Yep.
And then when I heard about this project in El Salvador, I was like, well, there's a way that I can combine these two, and that's what they were doing there. And so the connection, there was no pre-existing connection, other than when I heard the story for the first time, it made a lot of sense. Um, because I found myself in a very similar position, just not that far along. Like they'd obviously been further along, and they kind of gave us this idea, and we took that idea and we ran with it. We copy
Yep.
pasted their idea. Um, we didn't come up with this idea ourselves. We looked
Yep.
at what they did there, and we thought, well, we could do something similar. And I just saw it as a way to have a bigger impact, because by that stage I'd been trying to have a positive impact for so long. And it's kind of like, you know, there were so many things that's wrong with the world, and you're trying to plug holes here and there.
Mm.
Um, but you kind of know that there's not a immediate solution to any of these problems. You're kind of just putting band-aids
Yep.
on the wounds. And I, I knew that Bitcoin was a potential solution, fix the money, fix the world kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
I just didn't know how to do anything with Bitcoin because I couldn't build a wallet. I couldn't. I'm not a developer, you know. So
Yep.
what can I do with Bitcoin? And then when I heard about what they were doing in El Salvador, I was like, oh well, shit. Actually, there is something I can do with it.
Yep.
If they're doing that, I can do that too. I can make a contribution in that way. So I guess that's the connection.
Yep. So on a like concrete pragmatic level, what did you do? What were the first steps and how is it today?
Um, I mean, we today we're still pretty much doing the same thing we did in the beginning, except it's a little bigger. So
Yep.
we started off in 2021 by we had one coach who we started
Yep.
paying a portion of his salary in Bitcoin.
Okay. Yep.
So
Yep.
we took this one serve coach, and we said, look, we'll increase your salary by 10%, but we're going to pay that 10% in Bitcoin. And he was happy to do that. We obviously had
So what year was this?
this was in August, July, August 2021.
Okay. Did
So
he
kind of
hold on
like,
to the Bitcoin? Like, how was his response and everything? Was he also a believer?
well, at first he was spending it,
Yep.
because he had to know that this is real money that he could use.
Yep.
So we actually asked him to do two things at the same time. We asked him to go and onboard a shop in his community to accept Bitcoin as payment and accept
Yep.
Bitcoin for payment as his salary. And he was happy to do that.
Nice.
He's kind of like, I think of him as the you could in a way he's kind of the co-founder of the project.
Yep.
It was obviously my idea. I had the experience in Bitcoin. I had the knowledge of Bitcoin. I had to educate him on Bitcoin first. He had no idea what it was. He'd never heard about it, except through scams. There was a lot of scams where people were,
Yeah.
just unfortunately.
Yeah.
But after a couple of months of education, I think I started talking to him about Bitcoin in around May or June, and then by August we had our first shop on board, and by September he was, spending his 10% of his salary at that shop. And then from there onwards, we just gradually increased the Bitcoin part of his salary and decreased the fiat part of his salary.
Yeah.
And then with time, we started adding people to the team. Um, he was the only person left in the organization by that time because we kind of had to close down due to COVID. Like
Yeah.
COVID almost entirely closed the nonprofit,
Yeah.
because I mean we were largely dependent on donations coming through the tourism industry, and tourism was dead. So
Yeah.
so he was the only one left. But we did started growing the team again after that, except then the focus was more on the Bitcoin part of the equation, and we were still doing the surfing part, teaching kids to surf and so on, but it was a means to an end.
Yeah.
Um,
How was it onboarding stores and shops? Like what was the experience like? Because of course Africa is very different to the US or Europe. How was the conversation? What were some of the fears or objections they had? And what made them go for it?
I mean, the biggest challenge was always the fact that unfortunately Bitcoin had been used in so many scams.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was, and it still is one of the biggest challenges even now.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, um, 4 years later. Um, so that's a huge challenge. It's a lot easier now to counteract that because
Yeah.
now we have major grocery shops, like one of the biggest supermarkets in the country. They have about 2,500 locations around the country. You can spend Bitcoin at every single one of their
Yeah.
locations. And so it's way easier to demonstrate to someone that Bitcoin is not a scam because you can just give them some sats, walk
Yeah.
into this massive, I mean, they all know this grocery store. It's like a household name.
Yeah.
And you can show them that you can spend this at that store. And they're like, oh, okay. So it's obviously not a scam because. Um, but that was the biggest challenge in 2021 because in 2021 there was hardly anything like that. Like
Yeah.
there was this one online marketplace called Bitrefill where you could buy vouchers for certain locations,
Yeah.
but there was not much on there. Like one of the only practical things on there that you could use to demonstrate this was phone credit. And so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could put a Lightning wallet on somebody's phone, send them some sats to their wallet, and then you could put this marketplace app called Bitrefill on their phone, and you could use that marketplace to buy some phone credit, and they would then realize, okay, this Bitcoin thing can't be a scam because I'm getting real phone credits, and I can
Updates.
use
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
to main calls. So that was an important way to demonstrate to business owners that it's real money. Like
Yeah.
you have to go and show them that you can buy real stuff with it.
Yeah.
And if you can buy something real with it, then they'll believe that it's real money.
Yeah.
Um, but to be honest with you, once you've done that, it's actually not that difficult to onboard somebody because it solves a lot of very, very immediate problems.
Yeah.
So from that point onwards, it's quite straightforward.
Hey, Matthias here, and if you're enjoying this and want access to even more alpha, early stage deals and opportunities, and also behind the scenes insights on the markets, hit the link in the description and make sure you're subscribed. It's free and it puts you ahead of the curve. Let's get back to the show. Yeah. How was El Salvador? So you spent 6 weeks, you know the area much better than many people watching this. How was it? Like, what were your like first impressions, apprehensions, surprises? How and when did you go the first time and the last time? Because you said you went twice.
The first time was in 2022.
Okay.
Um, I was there for the second adopting Bitcoin conference,
Yep.
which they do every year. And then now the second time was in 2024.
Yep.
Um,
How was it?
so
How was the experience first time and second time and the differences?
um, I mean, the amount of development that I saw in the country between the first time and the second time, there was a massive difference. There was
Yep.
just there were some areas where the first time I went, it was um, all just gravel.
Yep.
None of the roads were paved. And the second time, they had paved roads all around. So there was a lot of development, a lot of new highways being built. So you could see that there was
Real progress.
a significant change
Yep. Yep.
in the infrastructure development going on. It's still obviously quite a poor country. It's a
Yep.
developing country. Um, so that's um, yeah, that didn't change. That's not
Yep.
going to change overnight. Um,
How's the
I
view in
think
terms of Bitcoin or the view the general understanding of Bitcoin? Because they were the first country to go big publicly with
yeah.
it.
I mean, it's interesting to have the Bitcoin conversation there with people because generally people trust the government in El Salvador, and it's
Interesting.
kind of
Yep.
weird to say that. Like a lot of countries around the world, you go, people don't trust their government at all. But
Yep. Yep.
in El Salvador, because the Bukele government changed people's reality,
Yep.
most people in El Salvador are very, very happy with what Bukele has done in terms of cleaning up the gangs. I know that he's
Yep.
received a lot of criticism from the outside, and that's fair enough. Like there are obviously things to be concerned about, but the average El Salvadorian
Yep.
is pretty happy with not having to worry about their kids being recruited into a gang. Like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
and so people trust the government. And so when you have the Bitcoin conversation with people, they tend to be more open to want to talk about it because to them it's like, oh well, the government says we can use dollars and the government says we can use Bitcoin. So Bitcoin and dollars, it's all just money. So not everybody wants to accept it as payment. There are people
Yep.
who like, no, 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 I don't want to take Bitcoin. You can't pay with it everywhere. Um, there are more places accepting it than in most other countries, obviously.
Yep.
But for the most part, people were very open to having the conversation, which is different from other countries. Like there's a lot of other places where I've been to where the moment you say the word Bitcoin, people are just like, no, 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 I don't want to. I'm not
Yep. Yep.
interested. I don't want to hear about it.
Yep.
Whereas just about everybody in El Salvador I interacted with was they maybe don't want to take it, but it's not like they become defensive when you start talking about it. They're open to talk about it. So yeah, that was interesting. But I mean, obviously it's not being enforced.
Yep.
Nobody was forced to use Bitcoin, so it's still it's still the minority of places. Like I think it's between 10 and 20% of the places of people in the country that use it. It's much higher than other countries, obviously.
Yep.
But it's not like they converted the entire population to Bitcoin
To
overnight. Not at
Bitcoin.
all.
Yep. Yep.
Unless you're in El Zonte, which is where the Bitcoin Beach project is. There you
Yep.
can pay pretty much everywhere. Like,
Interesting.
yeah.
What's the did you notice a big like a new wave of people moving to El Salvador between the two trips you had? So more
Oh yeah.
residents, more
Yeah, yeah.
Bitcoiners moving.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive. Like there was a very large number of people there relative to the first time I was there. The first time I was there, I wouldn't say I met anyone that had
Mm.
decided to move to El Salvador permanently, whereas the second time, there's a whole expat community.
Yep.
There's loads of people that have decided to move there. Um, and for good reason, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Yep.
I think there's huge potential there, but we'll
Yep.
see.
Yep. About the nonprofit, what drew you to starting it, maintaining it? It's not easy to run nonprofit. So
No.
why a nonprofit?
I mean, I don't know. there's a couple of reasons, I guess. I, you know, from a very practical perspective, when my wife and I started the tourism business in 2010, we wanted to give our business something unique
Hmm.
relative to other
Hmm.
tourism operations. And so, we figured, well, if we start this non-profit, then like, because of South Africa's past with apartheid,
Yep.
you can travel to South Africa and it feels like you're in Europe if you're
Yep.
in certain well-developed parts of the country. I don't know if you've been here, but most
I went
people,
once when I was so in the year 2000 for the World Championships, World Tennis Championships in
okay,
Sun City. So we did a day in
okay,
yeah. So it was very it was a bubble, but
yeah,
we did do a day in the city where they showed us around. We did do a day in the safari.
okay,
So I got I mean multiple different countries in one country, right? I mean, we drove by some of the
yeah,
poverty areas. I mean, it's things that Europeans don't see really in the West, in Western Europe, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
can only,
So
yeah, it's very hard
exactly,
to describe. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, if you
yeah,
went to Sun City, then you would see the contrast between
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's like you say, it's like two different worlds. And
yeah,
so we want because like now we have this business. We're bringing tourists into the country, and we can we you can drive past these places where people live in poverty, and you can see it
yeah,
from the outside. But how do you give somebody an experience of that without turning it into like a poverty porn type thing
sure,
where
sure, yeah,
it's like you want people to understand what's going on there, but you don't want to like turn it into like a zoo visit
yeah,
experience,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we figured, well, if we start this non-profit and we operate this non-profit on an ongoing basis, it's like a school for kids from one of these poor
yeah,
areas. And then when we have tourists, they can experience this non-profit operation, and that'll give them an idea of what the rest of South Africa looks like.
got it. Yeah,
But it's still a healthy experience. It's a constructive experience for both sides. It's not,
yeah,
it's not this poverty tourism type thing. So that's one of the reasons we started the nonprofit.
nice.
It,
Yeah,
it's very closely linked to our tourism business, and they both benefit from each other.
yeah,
So that's one of the main reasons. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I guess it's the same reason I'm attracted to Bitcoin. It's like I can see that there are problems in the world, and I want to try and do something to help fix it.
yeah,
That's basically what it comes down to.
yeah. How is the tourism business in general, yours, but also you mentioned COVID. It's had trouble recovering from it. How is it today?
Um, I mean, no one, no one's going to become a millionaire by operating a tourism business.
Yeah,
You put it that way.
yeah,
Um, it's very hard work. It's very hands-on. It's very exciting. You get to see and do a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't.
yeah,
Um, but it's like any other business. You've got to make some tough decisions. It's a small business. It's very small. I think one of the reasons we survived COVID is because we were small, and so
yeah,
we could very quickly make changes. And also thanks to Bitcoin, we wouldn't have survived COVID if it wasn't for Bitcoin, because our business did have a small Bitcoin treasury that could pull us
nice.
through the lockdowns, because I mean we couldn't operate for 2.5 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, but I'm super grateful for the tourism business, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would be as interested in Bitcoin as I am, because I had this very, very early practical demonstration of how powerful Bitcoin is. Like
yeah,
we literally could not find a single way to get money from Ukraine to South Africa in 2015 because of sanctions. And we tried everything, man. Like
yeah,
at some point we were even considering using credits on a gambling website. So there was this one gambling
Yeah,
website where they could our clients could have their account on the gambling website and we could have an account and there was a way to transfer credits from one account to another and I
it's
mean it was
crazy.
just I,
It's crazy, I think, for people who've never gone through something like that, meaning,
yeah
because you expect money to be easily accessible and available to exchange, but like when you really have to find ways and go down the rabbit hole to, you know, in this case with a gambling
yeah
website, it's a different game.
yeah I don't think I think most ordinary people don't experience that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't have experienced it if it wasn't for the business we had in tourism.
yeah,
Um, Particularly also because our tourists came from a part of the world that, especially now,
yeah,
with all the nonsense, geopolitical nonsense going on in the world that today, it's just become worse.
yeah,
So, well, because of that, it gave me an exposure to a very, very practical demonstration. I mean, when I saw that payment coming in, I I obviously had my wallet open and
yeah,
we had this guy in Ukraine on the phone. We were talking on the phone while we were doing the payment, and he said, "Okay, I just sent it." And the moment he said that, I could see it reflected in my
yeah,
wallet. It was in the mempool. It wasn't confirmed yet, but I could see it instantly.
yeah,
And then 10 minutes later, it had this first confirmation.
yeah,
Um, and I just looked at it and I was like, there's no way that this is not going to change the world.
yeah,
Because by that time, we'd been struggling with international payments, never mind the sanctions. Despite
yeah, yeah,
even in a perfect world, it takes 2-3 weeks for a payment to clear between
yeah,
international banks. You don't know where the money is. It's gone into a black hole. It's not in their bank account. It's not in my bank account. You don't know
yeah.
where the fuck it is. You can call as many call centers as you
Banks and
want
intermediary
to.
banks. Yep,
Nobody knows where it is. And then just
yep,
like, please let it arrive in my bank account.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Contrasted with this magic internet money, yeah, it was an incredible experience.
yeah. What do you think Bitcoin goes from now? And of course it's changed, the landscape has changed with the big funds and the banks coming in. Where do you think it goes in the next 5, 10 years?
I mean, I spoke to one of the guys that worked for the project this morning, um, and we had this conversation, and I, I kind of, I kind of mentioned to him how incredible it is that you are now at a stage where the biggest, most powerful government in the world, which is obviously the US, of which for the time being is still the most powerful government in the world,
Yep,
um, seems to have come to the conclusion that, you know, if you can't beat them, join them,
yep,
you
yep,
know? And it's incredible to think about that. Like, because, one could say that, yeah, but that was Biden and this is Trump. And it's like, yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, they're still the permanent government and they never
yep,
change. And for years and years and years, they were fighting really hard against this thing.
yep,
And now it's just completely turned around.
yep,
And I think, I think there's still a lot of danger in the situation because I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I think the new phase that we're in at the moment is where you see the promotion of stable coins and
yep,
with the Genius Act that just recently passed in the US, it is actually quite genius because if you can convince people to dollarize around the world with stable coins,
yep,
first of all, you're creating massive new demand for US treasuries,
yep,
which gives the US government the ability to keep printing money. And with that printed money, they can buy Bitcoin. They
yep,
can stack it in a reserve. They can create a narrative that Bitcoin is good for reserves, but not good for spending.
Yep.
And it's especially good for a reserve if you keep it with a regulated custodian, where it's not really your Bitcoin to begin with because you don't
Yep.
control it. And instead, you should just transact using stablecoins, which is kind of still a very centralized thing.
Yep.
Like they can switch off your wallet when they want to. So I'm a little concerned by that development because Bitcoin is freedom money. Like
Yep.
I use Bitcoin in a self-custodial way, and that allows me to do whatever the fuck I want to with my money. Nobody can tell me not to send it somewhere else because I have 100% control over it. And
Yep.
I think that's the way it's supposed to be used. And so I'm a little concerned by this regulatory encroachment supported by the stablecoin narrative, where people are saying, well, we'll spend stablecoins and save Bitcoin, but let me keep my Bitcoin on Coinbase because that's safer. And
Yep.
that makes the whole thing just completely impotent
Yep.
in my opinion. But that being said, I think this is happening because they've realized they can't kill it. And if they
Yep.
can't
Yep.
kill it, better to try and co-opt it. And I think they're going to
Yep.
fail at co-opting it. Just as they failed in killing it, I think they'll fail in co-opting it as well. And then eventually they'll just have to give up and say, okay, well, there's too many people that are using Bitcoin in a self-custodial way. There's too many people using Bitcoin as a completely unregulated form of money. We'll just have to let it be.
Yep.
It's like the church in the medieval ages, where when the printing press was first invented, they did try and control the flow of
Yep.
information for some time, but eventually they just gave up. Like,
Yep.
and that's kind of where I think we're at the moment. And I just don't want to, I just don't want to, I cannot overemphasize the importance of don't the people. I think the biggest danger is complacency. Like,
Yep.
we have to ensure that Bitcoin becomes everyday money for everyday people.
Yep.
And the way to do that is to use Bitcoin in all its different facets. It's not good enough to use it only as a store of value. Yes, it's a fantastic store of value, but it's also a fantastic medium of exchange because no one can stop you from using it. And stable coins are not that. Stable coins are controlled by centralized regulated entities, is not uncensorable.
Yep.
Um, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, they can stop you from doing what you want to do.
I mean, we've seen that. We've seen USDC, USDT get frozen, sometimes for good reasons because there was, criminal activity. But the point remains, yes, someone, a centralized entity can absolutely come
Yeah.
in and freeze funds. You mentioned an interesting point here, and we have about 5, 10 minutes left. Interesting point about using it rather than storing it, and or doing both. There's a school of thought,
Yeah.
as you know, people who say no, 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 you never spend your Bitcoin, never sell it, just store it. And I have very good friends in both camps, and others like no, the Bitcoin lifestyle is actually about using it too, because that's the whole point. So what are your thoughts on those two uh points of view in a way?
I mean, I completely understand that if you're working hard and you're earning a salary and your salary is being paid in dollars or in pounds or euro or whatever the case may be, and you've got to go out and exchange those hard-earned fiat units for Bitcoin.
Yep,
I would also be reluctant to spend my Bitcoin if I was in that case. And I don't blame people. I honestly don't blame people for not wanting to spend their Bitcoin if that's the way they got it.
yep,
I mean, it's really difficult to convince someone, yes, you can spend and replace. Sure.
yep,
You can also, if you know you want to buy X amount of Bitcoin, you can buy X plus 5% and then take that 5% and go and spend it rather
yep,
than spending the fiat that you would have spent anyway on your coffee or whatever. But that's difficult to do that. It's an extra step,
yep,
right? So I understand people want to keep it and just hodl, but I think the change comes once you start earning your salary in Bitcoin.
yep.
If Bitcoin is the only thing you have, then it's not a question of should I spend it or not, because you have to eat.
You have to. Yep,
You need fuel in your car. You have to move around. You have to spend it.
yep,
And my, I mean, I've had most of my salary. I mean, our business, especially since 22, when the sanctions became almost total,
Yeah.
the majority of our business payments come in Bitcoin. Most of my income is in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The vast majority of what we earn and own is in Bitcoin. So we have to spend it.
Yeah.
And the people that work for the project for Bitcoin Ekasi, we pay 22 salaries for the nonprofit every week, and 100% of those salaries are paid in Bitcoin. So they have to spend Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's no fiat income. There's Bitcoin income. So you have to spend it. So it's not really. I mean, the opportunity cost of spending Bitcoin is the same as spending fiat because you could have
Yeah.
bought Bitcoin with the fiat you spent.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Makes
that
sense.
it's just that I can understand that if people have to go and buy their Bitcoin first, it's a little more difficult to think about spending it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
understandable.
absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good distinction. What gets you like what are you excited about when it comes to the past or the future, the trajectory of Bitcoin in general, as it relates to what you're doing or what where it's going as a movement. What is exciting to you in this like today, mid 2025 in the future?
Um, I mean, I'm excited by the how can I put it? There's a slowly and steady growing movement of people who are continuously coming into Bitcoin and discovering Bitcoin,
Yeah,
and it's not something that is slowing down, but it's also not something that is speeding up faster than what is sustainable.
yeah,
You don't want to like Bitcoin is not ready to accommodate 8 billion people. We're
yeah,
not there yet. We need certain technological advances. We need layer twos and layer threes to develop on top of the base chain. Um, so I'm excited by the fact that there's still time left, and we seem to be making progress, and but just by the amount of development that's going into it,
yeah,
and by the amount of people, like it might be a minority, but it's a good enough number of people who are really placing an emphasis on this idea that yes, it's great for you to buy Bitcoin and to use it as a savings account, but if you can, try and convert your entire life to Bitcoin and see the benefit that that brings. There's a growing number of people who think that way, and I really do think that that's not something that anybody should do overnight.
yeah,
Um, but with enough time and education, self education, um, it's it's something that we should be aiming for. We should not be aiming to adopt Bitcoin. We should be aiming to eliminate fiat rather. But Bitcoin is not an end in of itself. It's just a solution to a problem. And so there's no point in obsessing about the solution because all we're really doing is solving the problem. So solve the problem, get rid of fiat.
yeah,
We don't want governments to have the ability to print infinite amounts of money. That's the problem that we're trying to solve. And I'm excited by the number of people who are in it for that reason.
yeah,
You know, the old saying of, come for the gains, stay for the revolution type of thing. I'm
yeah, yeah,
excited by the number of people who buy into this idea of, there's a better world that we can create, and one of the tools, not the only tool, but one of the tools that we can use to create a better world is a money system that is based on something that's more fair.
yeah.
That excites me. That gives me hope.
Yeah. I have this theory that pullbacks are actually bullish for the understanding of Bitcoin. I think that if Bitcoin was up only nonstop with no pullbacks, this is one of those like conspiracy theories slash theories I have that I think fewer people would have actually taken the time to look into it during the 6 to 18 month periods where you're holding it minus 60, 70, 80%, knowing that you could cash out. But when you lift the veil, it's like, oh, this. This is interesting. What is this? Oh, monetary policy, printing. What is this? Why is this? And versus if this was, if we were already at $1 million per Bitcoin, I don't know if it would have the, let's call it the more of the mission based rather than the financial based objective. So I think that going through that pain, and you described it at the beginning here of the conversation, how buying the top and then it's sinking 80%. It's either you exit and you cash out, or okay, what is this thing? Is it interesting?
Mm.
Is it worth keeping? And you go down the rabbit hole and you actually learn about how money works on a global scale. And I think that's actually strengthened the whole
Yeah.
movement in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's you have to go through, not it's not that you want people to experience suffering,
Yeah.
but there's value in that suffering for learning.
Yeah.
It's you don't learn anything without a little bit of suffering.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just not possible. And
Yeah.
I just look at my own situation. I had to go through the pain of, my wife was not very happy with me. We lost a couple of months worth of groceries, and
Yeah.
at that time that was a lot. Like we had very little. It was a lot, and so it was quite a painful experience. And I think these pullbacks, as you say, it's healthy to go through this cycle of euphoria and suffering and
Yeah.
learning, euphoria, suffering, and learning. It's just it's how life works, man.
Yeah. 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 I agree. Any closing remarks? Of course, we'll link everything around to this recording so people can find you. But would you want the audience to remember as this for the last minute or two here?
I don't know. I mean, Bitcoin is everyday money. That's, Satoshi had an idea, and his idea has not been implemented precisely the way he envisioned it, or he or
Yeah.
she or they or whoever they were. There's been things that have changed along the way, some of them for the better, some of them for the worse. But at the end of the day, the idea is to make Bitcoin global money, and the idea was that at the beginning. The idea is still that we want to separate money and state. We want to take that power away from a small group of people. It's literally the same as it was back in the Middle Ages when, education and literacy was confined to a small group of people. Nobody else could read,
Yep.
and you needed the priesthood to interpret the truth for you because you couldn't educate yourself. It was a
Yep.
horrible, horrible situation to be in, and the world changed for the better when information could flow freely.
Yep.
The world is going to change for the better if money can flow freely. And I think that's a mission worth getting excited about, because it's one of the things that we can do to move the world in a very, very, very positive direction. It's not going to solve all the problems we have. The world, there's always going to be problems. People are always going to do stupid things, but we can mitigate a lot of that by getting rid of this corrupt, centralized system of money control, that the world has been suffering under for close to a century now, maybe even
Yep.
longer. I think that's really, really something worth getting excited about and getting passionate about. But it's a slow burn. It's not
Yep.
something that we
Yep.
should expect to happen tomorrow or next year or the year after that. I hope to help my kids inherit a better world. Maybe I'll see the benefits of that. Maybe I'll see the benefits of it by the end of my life, but that's fine.
Yep.
I don't expect a miracle tomorrow, and I don't think anyone should expect a miracle tomorrow.
Yep. Wise words. I think this is a great way to end it. Thank you for coming on
Cool.
the show. We'll link everything. It was really a pleasure discussing um, more the philosophical side of Bitcoin. And again, thank you for being on the CoinRock show. Thank you everyone for watching this, and definitely want to have you back to talk more about like how it will have evolved because it's always evolving. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll talk to you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you got value from this episode, you're going to love what's coming next. So subscribe now. We drop new episodes and videos several times a week featuring power players, market movers, and insiders from the financial world. And if you want access to deals and insights we only share privately, hit the links in the description and we'll see you on the next show.